Welcome to the first ever ZJ Plays ranking of every movie I saw this year, and quite possibly the last. 2023 was an insane year for film, with some of the biggest bombs in some studio histories to, dang, that was pretty good. Nothing this year peaked as high as last year, and there was also a lot of hot garbage. Hot garbage that I did not bother seeing. As much as it pains me to say it, this is not my job. I'm not going to go see a movie I'm pretty sure is going to be terrible just so I can be another guy on the internet saying, hey, Dial of Destiny is bad. Until there's a crowd of commenters asking for my opinions on certain movies, this list is just what I felt like watching. And there were a lot of really good movies this year that I just didn't check out. Most notably Barbenheimer. I have my reasons, but I'm not going to mention those. It's just mostly down to I didn't feel like it. Sorry. Get that subscriber count up and maybe I'll see some more movies. Now, before we jump in, I want to quickly go over my ranking system and how it works. Feel free to skip to this time frame just to go straight into the rankings. I rank movies by letter grades, though not like most education systems. F tier is a trash movie with absolutely nothing of value. It is painful to watch and you lie awake at night knowing that it exists. D tier is just bad. It's clear that it was made to sell toys or had horrible development cycles. D and D plus movies can be described as nothing movies. C tiers are well-made movies, but nothing special. They're not bad, but you walk out thinking of all the things you could have done with that time. C minuses put you to sleep, and C pluses can be called guilty pleasures. You acknowledge how bad the movie is, but you like it anyway. B tiers are pretty good movies with a handful of problems. Lower Bs are movies that you liked but wouldn't recommend or rewatch, and higher Bs are great with some noticeable shortcomings. A tier movies are great. They do everything they want to fantastically. Lower A tiers have problems that are very easy to forget in the beauty of it all, and higher A tiers are near perfect movies. But S tier movies do something above and beyond. They may not be better than A tier, but they revolutionize some aspects of the film to the nth degree, like animation, storytelling, or acting, and will stick with you long after the credits roll, even if the movie isn't perfect. Alright, with that said, let's go into...
It stinks! It stinks! It stinks!
And the worst movie I saw this year ended up being... Skinamarink. I know, I'm sorry, this seems right up my alley. I love analog horror. I highly recommend The Walton Files, Dreams of Insomniac, FNAF VHS, The Backrooms, Don't Hug Me I'm Scared, kind of, Vita Carnus, The Radar. Holy crap, Radar was so great. It made me feel more in 10 minutes than Skinamarink did in 100. And that's just the film's detriment. It's 100 minutes of just nothing. It's just a lot of build-up to nothing. I felt no joy, no fear, just pure boredom. I actually wanted to sleep while watching it. I could have gotten on maybe 20 minutes of this movie, not 100. And it's not just the 100-minute problem. I mean, there's more than 100 minutes of DHMIS. It's just in most of these other analog horrors, something is happening. Cartoons, PSAs, film students who should have dropped out. Skinamarink just has none of that. I'm sorry to y'all who say this is the scariest movie ever. To me, this is just waiting, the movie. Which is why it edged out to be the worst under Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. I made a review of this movie you can check out, so I won't spend too much time here. And sometimes I feel like I may have been a little too harsh on it. But then I think about the movie, and it's just the most generic thing from the studio that revolutionized making fun of Disney. That's really what hurts it the most. Otherwise, it's the majority of Illumination's output. Heck, I'd say that this is probably better than Disney's output this year. That saves it from the D tier, but not by much. So, yeah, most of my thoughts on the video hold true. Watch that if you want more details. Speaking of movies I made reviews on, I feel like I gave the FNAF movie a bit too much praise. I made a review on it with a few expectations behind it, and since that day, I've basically had no reason to go back to it. Mostly because it's just kind of hard to ignore its shortcomings as a movie. It's still decent, and I liked it. Again, I just have no real drive to go back to it, which is something I can say I had with every movie above it. Starting with Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Man, this was a rough summer. Hear me out, I've never extensively watched Transformers. I've seen the first Bay movie, then earlier this year I saw Bumblebee. It was alright. Iron Giant with Bumblebee and some action at the end. A solid B-. Rise of the Beast kind of fits comfortably between the two. It feels like a return to the Bay formula without the Bay part, and that's not a bad thing. nor a good thing. I feel like this would have been great 10 years ago, but in the age of large CGI battles, it's just okay. The action is much slower than the first Transformers, but you can actually see what's going on, so that's very much a plus. The human characters aren't horrible, just a little forgettable, and the Transformers themselves are all okay. I don't hate any of them, and Peter Cullen is obviously the best as Optimus Prime. I don't see myself going back to this anytime soon, but I don't know, I'd watch it on a plane or something. And I am excited for the G.I. Joe series that this movie teased, despite actually watching Snake Eyes last year on a plane and absolutely despising it. And, okay, yep, here it is. This is the point where I scare away the last two people watching. Guys, I actually really like The Flash. I almost made a review of it, but was scared by the mighty forces of the internet looking at my positive opinions. Yes, this movie is technically horrible. It's been in development hell for years. Ezra Miller's got problems, and literally nothing about it works. But I had an absolute blast with it. The action was all good, even if it was all just horribly CGI'd. Michael Keaton returning as Batman was fun. Supergirl was good, despite being more of a MacGuffin than an actual character. I think it would have been a lot cooler had these two not been revealed in trailers. I think that would have been pretty awesome reveals. And as much as cameo fodder is just ruining movies nowadays, I'm sorry, I laughed out loud at that last one. I thought it was hilarious. And I don't know, I'd say Transformers and heck maybe even FNAF are better movies, but this movie was a lot less boring, and I'd totally be down to sit and watch this dumpster fire full of fireworks. Wait, I hate fireworks, so that's not a good analogy. This dumpster fire full of Realm Royale players. Yeah.
I am the paint!
Do you mean the pain?
No.
Asteroid City is the perfect example of a great movie that I probably won't see again for a while. Don't get me wrong, the latest in Wes Anderson's catalog of films in a league of their own is pretty dang great. It's visually stunning, hilarious, and hard-hitting themes that leave you thinking. And I think that's the thing. I have a hard time not thinking about this film and all of its moving parts, but I can't imagine myself sitting down through it again. Whereas something like Fantastic Mr. Fox, I'll think about for a week and then ask if I wanted to see it. I'll jump out of my seat in response. I think it's been long enough now where if I was offered, I'd say, yeah, I'm free. Also, if you've never seen a Wes Anderson film and wanted to get into him, this isn't the best starting spot. This movie is complicated. It's a documentary of a play called Asteroid City, and it's just constantly jumping between time periods in the play and the fictional world inside the movie, and it's hard to keep track of it all. And I couldn't even figure it out by the ends. And I play Metal Gear. But if you can get yourself to sit down and watch this tornado of plot points of a movie, you probably won't be disappointed. Maybe even walk away feeling good about yourself. That being said, if you do want to get into a good starting place for Wes Anderson, I recommend Isle of Dogs, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and the 4 Netflix shorts that premiered earlier this year. They're based on Roald Dahl stories, and they're actually pretty great. I'd say they're A tier, except this is a list of movies and not short films, so these are easy honorable mentions. And on the subject of watching movies again, which is a lot in B tier, Mission Impossible was a movie I really liked until I rewatched it, and then I realized it's just more Fallout. That's not terrible. Fallout is amazing, but like, vehicle battle on the cliffs, breaks to disable a nuke, slazy business party, running through the city, driving through the city, which goes on for way too long, parachuting. Is this the S3 plan? I can't put it too low because it's still awesome. I loved it the first time, but now it's a good movie, just longer and more disorganized. Where Mission Impossible got worse on rewatch, the Mario movie remains the same no matter how much I rewatched it, which is quite a lot. I don't know, I really like this movie. It's just fun. I occasionally walk in on someone watching it, and I see that they're almost at the Donkey Kong battle, and say, okay, I'll watch this until the Donkey Kong fight, which means they're almost to Rainbow Road, which means they're almost to the wedding, which means it's almost over, and I'll sit through this whole movie and just waste my whole day. And the Mario movie doesn't have much in terms of arcs, revolutionary story, or writing, but it's just fun. And that's the best adaptations of Mario someone could ask for. I'm sorry, I'm still not tired of this. That being said, The Boy and the Heron is fine. I was expecting a golden masterpiece as Hayao Miyazaki's supposed final film. And a lot of people got that, but I didn't, I guess. I just feel like I got a worse version of Spirited Away. Yeah, I'm probably one of the only people who felt somewhat disappointed by this movie. You may say I expected too much, but hear me out. For starters, this is Ghibli's best looking movie. It's not even a competition. And the world that this movie explores is so wondrous, as always. I really like my hero. He's understandably stoic, and he knows what kind of man he is, even if his reactions to this world aren't quite realistic. I related to him in a way, but probably not the way the movie wanted me to. There were a lot of really good scenes, and some hit really hard when you take Hayao Miyazaki's retirement into account. However, this movie has a painful pacing problem. Every other Hayao Miyazaki movie, save for one, jumps straight into the whimsy of the world. This movie takes way too long to get to that point. Once it got to that point, yeah, it was a cool adventure. It was a bit confusing on the motivation side, but I really liked it. I just wish that first half hour went by faster and we could have just spent some more time in this awesome world. Explore some characters a bit further and maybe... I don't know. I just didn't gel with this one. This isn't the worst Miyazaki movie, but I wouldn't put it in the top half.
But I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo.
Guys, I have so much to say about the creator. I wanted to make a review of it, but I was way too busy with other videos and game dev. But let me try and summarize. World, amazing. Action, jaw-dropping. Characters, emotional. Writing, abysmal. I'm not opposed to the idea that an AI wrote this movie. The characters are great, but shift sides way too quickly. The plot has so many holes. Well, not so many, they're just a few, and they're there and they're noticeable. Nobody here talks like a human, except for the AIs for some reason. But this world where AIs and humans live in harmony was awesome. Well, mostly. The Asian aesthetics were beautiful. The action, oh my gosh. This was directed by the director of Rogue One, and it shows. Why is such an S-tier movie buried in AI-generated script? I'm totally down for a follow-up written by humans. Like, imagine an animated series set in this world. I would legitimately binge that. And I don't usually binge TV shows. Maybe I should go full video essay on this movie sometime. I really love this movie so much, and yet it just hurts me so bad. D&D was awesome. I heard somebody say that this was like the original Pirates of the Caribbean, and I totally see that. It's just a fun adventure film with good characters, fun action, and a half-decent plot. Being an average D&D enjoyer, I love the chemistry between the band of misfits. It was pretty realistic, and I think every character fit their character just right. Chris Pine and Justice Smith in particular. And this movie was funny, easily one of the best comedies of the year. All of the situations the group find themselves in are all great. The pacing is solid, no character were idiots, and it's just kind of sad that one of the best movies of the year just did everything not bad. But that says more about this year than it does about this movie. I've seen this movie a handful of times since in theater. It's fun, seriously what it needs to be, and I took notes for my next campaign, which may not be for a while. I don't have many friends. Speaking of friends, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. The only Disney movie I bothered with this year. I didn't love it the first time I saw it. Yeah, it was good, but it was probably my least favorite of the Guardian movies, and people said it was in the top 5 MCU movies, and okay, I think I wasn't head over heels for this movie because Rocket has always been my least favorite Guardian. I thought his backstory was sad but kind of predictable. The action just felt different in comparison to the rest of the trilogy, and the soundtrack is easily the worst of the trilogy. And okay, I was really pissed off the day I watched it and I hated everything. I went back, watched all the movies, and yeah, I'm on with this one now. I think I like all the Guardian movies equally, and they could possibly fit in the top 5 MCU movies for me. I don't know, Spider-Man 1 or 2 are pretty good. So yeah, after rewatching the series, I gained a larger appreciation for Rocket. He's still my least favorite of the Guardians, but he is still really good. I could see his overall arc and really felt for him. I do think his flashbacks were a bit out of place, similar to the Book of Boba Fett, but it's still emotional, and the villain. Man, this guy is just so evil. Imagine the evil officer from Serenity, but in charge. Oh yeah, I saw Serenity this year. He is just the biggest sociopath and shows what somebody with a bad batch of emotions will do to perfect the world. And I take back what I said about the action. It's just kind of shaky and different, but, you know, in a good way. And man, that whole farewell aspect of the movie, man. This isn't as strong as the Boy and Herons with the farewell theme, but they are still strong. A farewell to James Gunn, these characters, and good MCU movies. Loki Season 2 was pretty good, though. Okay, now for a movie I had an S tier, but fell a little short the more I thought about it. But first, viewer, can we just set our identities aside and appreciate a film as a film? No? Okay. The Sound of Freedom was almost an S-tier movie simply because, up until recently, it was the movie that made me feel the most this year. Like, I saw a couple running out of my theater crying. A movie about the horrors of that, saying so much while showing so little, commentating on how we spend too much finding buyers but never dedicate enough to finding the product. Following a special agent who quit his job right before his retirement to privately pursue this product without the government's aid, we see all the horrors of this business. You feel sick at the beginning watching an innocent father make a near fatal mistake. You feel for these kids as they're treated as nothing more than product, and that joy you feel as these kids who may have never known a different life shout the sound of freedom. And then the third act happens. Yeah, the second act of this movie is awesome. The planning stage for this operation to rescue a bunch of kids, resembling something like Ocean's 11 or Inception, it's really amazing and also based on a true story. And I wish the rest of the movie was like it. But nah, this movie needs a newly fabricated and overall unnecessary third act about a jungle rescue. This is so disappointing. This feels like the writer saw a Marvel movie in development and decided they needed a better climax. The jungle rescue is fine, it's just completely unrealistic and nearly completely fabricated. I just would have liked to see this whole movie focus on the one operation and play out more like a heist movie. That's what knocks it out of S tier for me. Speaking of S tier, an S tier movie isn't automatically better than an A tier movie. It just has something revolutionary, something to make it a must watch. Leo is revolutionary for two reasons. Not only is it a good Adam Sandler movie, it's a great movie. Not only is it a great animated movie, it's somehow the second best animated movie I saw this year. Okay, I didn't see much, but Leo is, I kid you not, comparable to Encanto. I think they have pretty similar themes, flawed characters delving into themselves and discovering more. For some of you, that may sound like much. Heck, some of you may think I'm over-exaggerating. But now let me ask you, is Hotel Transylvania comparable to Encanto? I don't think so. This is such an out-of-left-field surprise. It's an animated movie with very few jokes that don't land, a multitude that do, emotional characters, and a realistic portrayal in art. They're all incredibly likable. Are you sure Adam Sandler made this? This is the most Disney thing that has come out this year. I do have one problem with it, and that's the mid-movie turmoil that was unnecessary and somewhat unrealistic. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Also, the turtle character was somewhat unlikable, but every other character makes up for him, especially this drone, who I think is in a romantic relationship by the end. Also, points against a character who shares my name. That's always been a pet peeve of mine. I'm okay with it in Borderlands 3, but in Ninjago, I was just always embarrassed by it. Anyway, speaking of lizards, Godzilla -1. Holy cow. I've seen King of Monsters. I liked it. But this is something. This is a movie about a man tortured by demons. Both the literal giant demons heading ashore, but also the cultural demons of being a chickened out kamikaze pilot. On top of that, this movie wouldn't have happened had he just had the nerve to pull the trigger in the first scene. This is somehow a movie that blends the big kaiju human aspects perfectly. Unlike other monster movies and even Transformers, the Godzilla action is terrifying. I felt more scared of this movie than the two horror movies I saw this year. Yeah, I only saw two, and they were probably the worst I could have picked, but sorry. This truly feels like bringing Godzilla into a new age with the best possible way. Almost like the Peanuts movie. Not something that tries to fit Godzilla in with some Illuminati agency. On that note, you should go watch Martyr, it's pretty good. But rather brings up the older movies to life with more modern filmmaking technology. Heck, I'm usually a dubber, and the Japanese subtitles didn't bother me at all. Oh, and those nuclear blasts, holy crap. I honestly can't think of much wrong with this movie. Well, the pacing could be better, but it took a while to get to the good stuff. And in theory, Godzilla is probably better than Spider-Verse, but man, this movie is just amazing. I think I was a little too harsh on it in my review just because of that extreme and disappointing ending, but knowing that going in on rewatch, I actually really enjoyed it a lot more. My points on it still stand. It's an incomplete movie. Heck, Mission Impossible felt more complete than this. But man, this is the best looking animated movie ever. The action, the backgrounds, the different styles, every individual Spider-Man. Holy Hannah, I can't emphasize how revolutionary this movie is. Hence why it's S tier. And if you want my full thoughts on it, you can go check out my review. And up until recently, this was my movie of the year. But not even a week ago, I saw a movie. One that nails every good thing about all of these movies on the head. A movie that made me laugh and made me cry. A movie with excellent writing, tight action, brilliant acting, and a whole helping of heart. One that I've watched again and still can't stop thinking about. A movie that brings me so much joy, left an imprint on me, and I'd love to go into more detail on. I know a lot of people have a lot of controversial thoughts on this movie, but my movie of 2023 is Wonka. I know, to me, it seems like the general consensus of this movie is better than I thought it would be. I, on the other hand, thought this movie would be good and was blown away by it all. Where do I begin? All the characters are amazing, hilarious, and the dialogue and movements felt like a Dr. Seuss book. Wonka himself is great. Timothée Chalamet actually is awesome here. He's not the horror icon Gene Wilder was, but this was before his years of isolation. He's very much a kooky chocolate maker and a magician, and he sings pretty good. Speaking of which, the music here is great. Most of the songs are incredibly catchy. I've listened to them multiple times. But pure imagination. I've seen this movie twice, and I teared up both times this song came on. And a couple of other times in this movie. It's emotional when it needs to be and hilarious when it doesn't. Man, maybe I should go see Paddington because this was a blast. It might be recency bias, but as it stands, Wonka is my favorite movie of the year. Well, 2023 was a heck of a year. But as we look into the horizon, let's hope for the best and prepare for the worst. Now, two things before I go. First, I made a game. It's called Jango the Jackalope. It's a simple 2D platformer based on the older arcade machines. I made it just to get used to the Godot engine and use it for my next project. I'm not sure if it's going to be fully released by the time I upload this video. I've been having trouble with exporting, and I have a few more levels to make, but I'll link to the Game Jolt page below. And story-wise, this is technically a FNAF fan game, so I hope to use Jango for such later. But for now, I just want to give a huge thanks to everyone who has turned into me over the past year. I know there's not much in terms of views for YouTube or subscribers, but I know there are a lot of you that have stuck with me throughout the year. Doing this has been both a blast and a nightmare. And hearing your guys' feedback has made me feel awesome. I hope there's more growth in the future. I've got a lot of plans for some videos in this next year, and I hope to see you all there. But until then, my name is AJ Plays. Huh, that was weird.